everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, so the audio is good. It's time to start the lecture. So this is very interesting. जो क्लास का एक पैटर्न है ना कि जब क्लास शुरू हो जाती है तो तब कुछ लोग बैठे हुए होते हैं एंड देन देयर इज अ होल लॉट ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स, इनको लगता है कि जी जब तक पहले हम 5 मिनट के अंदर क्लास के अंदर नहीं आएंगे तो या तो वो क्लास जो है ना वो उनसे पढ़ी नहीं जाएगी या ये है कि उनकी इम्पोर्टेंस नहीं होगी. आई डोंट रियली कैन अंडरस्टैंड, अभी तक मुझे समझ नहीं आई इस बात. आप लोग वहीं पे मौजूद होते हो, पीपल आर नो दैट यू हैव अ क्लास एट 10. तो अगर क्लास 10 पे है तो यू कैन इजीली अकोमोडेट योर सेल्फ एंड बी देयर एट 10. बट नहीं, 10 बजे क्लास शुरू होगी तो अगले 5 मिनट जो है ना वो हमने लगाने हैं अपने आप को सेटल करते, अपना लैपटॉप खोलते और सारा कुछ करते, डिस्पाइट द फैक्ट कि हम घर बैठे हुए और कुछ हम क्लास का इंतजार कर रहे हैं, किसी और चीज़ का तो इंतजार नहीं ना कर रहे. लेकिन दिस इज़ वेरी अम्यूजिंग एंड अमेजिंग फॉर मी. और ये जिस दिन से मैं क्लास रही हूँ हर दफ़ा यही हो रहा है, कोई ऐसी क्लास नहीं है कि जिसमें मैं यहाँ बैठी हूँ 10 बजे और मुझे पता लगे कि पार्टिसिपेंट्स जो है ना वो 50% से ज़्यादा जो है ऑनलाइन मौजूद है एट 10 o'clock या वट एवर द टाइम इज. इंटरेस्टिंग. स्टूडेंट्स विल बी स्टूडेंट्स, चाहे ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स हैं, चाहे क्या कहते हैं वर्चुअल क्लासरूम के हैं या एक्चुअल क्लासरूम के हैं. So today we are going to start with the topic from virology. एंड टिल डेट तो हमने अभी जनरल वायरोलॉजी पढ़ी है और उसके बाद डॉक्टर माजिद ने आपका स्पेशल वायरोलॉजी में से एक टॉपिक शुरू किया था herpes viruses का, and he completed that portion. Today we are going to start with the respiratory viruses. अब respiratory viruses are amongst the viruses which are under the category of RNA enveloped viruses. ठीक है, और RNA enveloped viruses जो हैं in the respiratory group, there are a number of viruses which are going to be under this group, but basically today we are going to start with the coronavirus. Or coronavirus, why I've selected this topic before we did influenza या parainfluenza जो कि बहुत common, and influ is a very common problem in every country. और बाकी ये है कि फ्लू के क्वेश्चन भी आपका ऐसी चीज में जरूर आता है, especially short part of a question can be on antigenic shift या antigenic drift के ऊपर, because a lot of as you will study influenza तो you will come to realize कि antigenic variation बहुत ज़्यादा है due to certain factors in case of influenza, and every year there is a shift in the antigenic pattern of the flu virus, as a result of which जो उसकी वैक्सीन है उसकी efficacy कह लो या उसकी control of that infection becomes again difficult. So उसकी vaccines हर साल नई नई बनती होती हैं. So actually we used to start with the influenza virus, but this time I'm going to start with the coronavirus because of the corona COVID-19 situation. अब चूंकि कोविड-19 सिचुएशन है और एक तो वैसे ही सबको इंटरेस्ट होगा इससे कि हाँ कोरोना वायरस और उसकी बैकग्राउंड क्या है. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट जो एक पिछले सालों का पैटर्न मैंने देखा है वो पैटर्न ये है कि इफ देयर इज अ डिजीज स्पेशली इन वायरोलॉजी विच इज़ वेरी कॉमन एट अ पर्टिकुलर टाइम, इस साल में जिस साल में आपका एग्जाम है उस साल में अगर वो एक डिजीज चल रही है तो इट्स हाईली लाइकली 90% चांसेस हैं कि उसके ऊपर आपको क्वेश्चन जरूर आएगा. जैसे पीछे एक दफ़ा जब डेंगू का था तो डेंगू के ऊपर उस ईयर डेंगू के ऊपर 30 ईयर स्टूडेंट को क्वेश्चन जरूर आया था उनके एग्जाम में. सिमिलरली इस दफ़ा कोरोना है तो वी एक्सपेक्ट कि कोरोना वायरस के ऊपर क्वेश्चन आपका ज़रूर आएगा. सो that is why a little bit of detail so that you will be able to attempt this question properly. So RNA virus is coronavirus is an RNA enveloped virus. This is a list of the common respiratory viruses which would be included in your study and which are included in the chapter on respiratory viruses. इसमें से influenza and para-influenza viruses हैं, and they cause both the upper as well as a lower respiratory tract infection. Then we have the respiratory syncytial virus, which causes a lower respiratory tract infection. Then rhino and coronavirus, they cause both an upper respiratory tract infection, but this infection can spread into the deeper tissues, resulting in a pneumonia. Then the adenovirus, which causes an upper respiratory tract infection as well as ocular infections. And then we have the human metapneumovirus, and they belong to different families, as you can see over here. So, coming to the coronavirus. Coronavirus is basically an RNA virus and which is associated with the common cold. And most of the times the common cold, basically, the common cold like the influenza, flu viruses, these are all included in the coronavirus group, and so it's a very common cause of common colds. Otherwise, it can also cause a low respiratory tract infection, and sometimes, like the adenoviruses, they can cause a gastroenteritis in infants. So, as a group, coronaviruses can cause common colds, they can cause respiratory tract infections, or they can cause gastroenteritis in infants. Then we have three coronaviruses which have been labeled as novel coronaviruses. Novel because these were new. They probably had developed as a result of some mutation, and therefore they were able to cross over from their natural reservoir into the human beings and produce massive infections amongst the human population. So they have resulted in epidemics over the past years. So amongst them, the most important, the first one was the severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, and this was seen in 2002. But this was limited to a particular area, geographical area, mostly in China and whereabouts. And so it was not a pandemic, it was an epidemic. Then we have the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, or MERS, and this occurred in 2012. And this was again limited to the Arabian Peninsula, and then from there, due to travel, it spread to a few other countries. But again, it was more of an epidemic rather than a pandemic. And then we have in 2019, end of 2019, we had the COVID-19. And this very rapidly developed into a pandemic because of the travel and because of probably the nature of the virus. It spread very rapidly amongst the humans, and as the humans traveled from one part of the world to another, they took the virus with them and the infection, and since it is highly infectious, so it spread very rapidly amongst the individuals. Most of the coronaviruses, they are the animal viruses, and they cause diseases in animals, but the domestic animals as well as those which are utilized for the economic reasons. So whenever these animals, they are going to be affected by any coronavirus infection, they result in economic loss to the country. The human viruses which have evolved from these animal viruses, they're difficult to culture and they are more poorly characterized as compared to their animal counterparts. Then we have particularly coronaviruses. They are large viruses, large enveloped RNA viruses which have a positive sense RNA genome. I hope everyone knows what is a positive sense RNA genome. There are two types of RNA genomes, a positive sense RNA genome and a negative sense RNA genome. With the positive sense RNA genome, the RNA genome by itself can act as a messenger RNA for the production of various proteins. On the other hand, if a virus has a negative sense RNA genome, it is first copied into and converted into through the help of certain enzymes like the RNA replicase into a positive sense RNA genome, which is then going to be acting as a messenger RNA. So a negative sense cannot act as a messenger RNA and cause direct production of the polypeptides which are required. A positive sense can act as a messenger RNA, a negative sense cannot, and it needs to be converted into a positive sense to act as a messenger RNA. And then the helical symmetry of the RNA genome. Coronavirus name is derived from a Latin word which means a crown or a halo, and when these viruses were seen under the microscope, specifically the electron microscope, they were seen to have a halo around themselves, and this halo and or this gave it the name of a corona or a crown. And this halo was because of the emerging spikes which were coming out of the envelope, and so they created a crown like structure which was then labeled as a corona. Coming to the characteristics of the virus, it's a spherical virus, 120 to 160 nanometers in diameter, and it has a helical nucleocapsid, single-stranded, positive sense, non-segmented RNA, and this is the infectious material of the virus. Then we have two proteins, two glycoproteins, and one is a phosphoprotein, and some of the viruses may have a heme agglutinin as well, which is most commonly seen in the influenza viruses. Then we have the envelope, which is a large the envelope which is going to be covering the nucleocapsid, and this is going to have club or petal shaped spikes protruding from its surface, and these petal or club shaped spikes you can see as the projections on an electron microscope from the surface of the virus. Replication takes place within the cytoplasm, and when the virus is maturing, it buds into the endoplasmic reticulum and the Golgi apparatus. Now, the importance of the coronaviruses stems from the fact that it can cause SARS, it can cause MERS, it can cause COVID-19, and it can also cause the common colds. And it has the capacity to cause a genetic mutations, and this genetic mutations is different from the other genetic mutations occurring in other bacteria and viruses in the respect that it has a higher frequency of recombination. So as it goes from one generation to the other during replication, there is a high probability of some genetic change occurring in the genome of the RNA, in the genome of the virus, and as a consequence, the new progeny may have certain characteristics which are different from the older one. And it is also these viruses, they are very difficult to grow in cell culture. Coming to the structural proteins. Now, this is the structure of the coronavirus, whether it's a COVID-19 or the SARS, they have the same structure. First of all, you have the nucleocapsid protein, which is known as the N protein, and this is bound to the RNA of this virus. Then we have the spike protein. Sorry, after that we have the envelope protein, and this envelope is going to encircle the nucleocapsid, and this is known as the E protein. And this E protein is going to interact with these membrane proteins which are inserted into the envelope, and they together will form a strong wall around the nucleocapsid, and this is going to be known as the viral envelope. These are the two constituents of the viral envelope. Then we have the spike protein or the S protein, which is responsible for binding of this virus to the receptors on the surface of the host cells. And this is going to cause the attachment of the viral particles to the host cells, and then their internalization into the host cell for the utilization of the machinery of the host cell for its multiplication and development of its progeny, or for the development of more viruses. Okay, so we have four types of proteins. Number one is the nucleocapsid protein. Number two is the membrane protein, which is inserted into the envelope protein, and finally we have the spike protein, which is projecting outside the envelope. Coming to the replication, its replication cycle is similar to the replication cycle which we've already studied in the general virology. So this is again the same. You have these SARS-CoV viruses or some other MERS-CoV viruses, whichever you would like to label this, but it's a coronavirus, and the coronavirus is going to get attached to the ACE2 receptors, angiotensin converting enzyme 2 receptors, and these receptors, they are present on the surface of the host cells, and they are going to be present mostly on the bronchial epithelium, but they are present on other tissues of the body as well, other cells of the body as well. Once the S protein or the spike protein gets attached to the excuse me, it gets attached to the ACE2 receptors on the surface of the host cell. This is then going to result in the internalization of the virus, and it goes into the cytoplasm of the host cell. There it is going to disintegrate, and it is going to release the RNA. This RNA is then going to utilize the virus RNA is then going to utilize the host cell to create the host ribosomes are going to be utilized to read the viral RNA genome, and they are going to translate them into various polyproteins or polypeptides. And then this translation is going to utilize the help of the RNA replicase enzyme, which is going to be present in the virus. And then these proteins, through various processes, they are going to be converted into the different types of proteins of the coronavirus. That is the envelope proteins. They will be the M protein, S protein, all that. And then they are going to be assembled outside the RNA of the virus, which is also being replicated, which is also being constituted with the help of the RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. So this host ribosome is being utilized by the RNA of the virus to produce the polyproteins as well as to produce the RNA. And once all these products they have been synthesized, they are then going to be assembled, and they are then going to be packaged, and the new virus particle is going to be synthesized, and this is going then to be released from the surface of the host cell. So it is going to bud out of the host cell. It is not going to destroy the host cell, and it is not going to be released in that way. So it is going to be a process of budding, which is going to cause the release of these viruses into the host tissues, and then they are then going to go get attached to the other host cell receptors, and the life cycle is going to be repeated. Now, coming to the transmission, how does this come into the human beings? Basically, the coronaviruses, they have a huge natural reservoir in animals, and in the animals, it is mostly this reservoir has been detected in the bats. Most of the infections which have occurred in case of the coronavirus infections, they have started from the bat. When we talk about SARS, which was in way back in 2002, this was transmitted to an alternate. Basically, they remain in the bat, but from the bat, they can sometimes get transferred to other animals. When it got transferred to the civet cats, it was after some mutations, it was transferred into this host, and this host then transferred it to human beings, and this was labeled as the SARS, or the severe acute respiratory syndrome virus. Then in one situation, it got transferred to the camels, and there it was in the Middle Eastern region. So it was referred to as the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome. And again, from this camel, it again could be transferred to the human beings. Similarly, we have the COVID-19 situation, which is thought to come from the bat, whether there is an intermediate host or it came directly from the bat to the human beings, that is still not identified. So there is a speculation that it came from the bat directly or indirectly, but basically when we talk about the coronaviruses, we are talking about a transmission from the animals to the human beings, and it is therefore a zoonotic infection. And most of the time, the animal reservoirs, apart from the bat, there are a number of other animal reservoirs, but all the human infections which we have encountered, they have had the bat as the reservoir. And from the bat, it has been transferred to the various animals and then into the human beings. When it comes to the humans, then we have a transmission from humans to humans. Then it is no longer an animal to human transmission. Even if one person becomes infected with the coronavirus, then he is able to transmit it to the other human beings through droplet infection. And this droplet infection can be a direct infection through the breath of a person during coughing, during sneezing, during the talking, and these droplets, they can be, and however forcefully you talk, that is the force which is going to cause the droplets to travel a certain distance. So the greater if you are shouting, you are going to throw these droplets at a far more greater distance as compared to when you are talking in your normal tone. So all of these droplets they remain suspended in the air, and once they are in the air, they can be then inhaled by another person passing through that area. So, or if you do, or if the two persons they are at a if they are not they are at a distance in which these droplets can reach the other person, they can be directly transmitted from one person to the other. And then there is the indirect contact when these droplets they get onto your hands, onto your clothes, onto your surfaces, and from these areas, when you touch your hands or when you place any object and then you handle that object which gets contaminated with these viruses, and then when you touch with your dirty hands, when you touch your mouth or your nose, you can transfer these organisms through your mouth to your nose or through your nose into your system. How many human coronaviruses are there till date? They have been currently, we have virologists have confirmed that since 1960s to the 2002, there were only two human coronaviruses, Q29E and OC43. But in 2002 and 2003, there was a mutation in these viruses, and then a new SARS-CoV virus emerged at that time. Then at the end of 2004, Haven coronavirus or New Haven coronavirus or NL63 came into appearance, and then in 2005, Hong Kong University, one coronavirus was discovered, and this was discovered in two patients who developed pneumonia in Hong Kong. And then all these viruses, they had a very limited, apart from SARS-CoV, they had a very limited spread, and they had a very limited population which was being affected by them. Then we come to 2012, in which the MERS-CoV virus was discovered, and this was discovered in a patient who presented with pneumonia and kidney failure. And this was then labeled as the HCoV and or EMC 2012 or the MERS-CoV virus. And then in 2019, we have the COVID-19, which is still going very strong. So let's talk about these three most important viruses, that is the severe acute respiratory syndrome virus. Three syndromes which we'll talk about today. Number one is the severe acute respiratory syndrome. Number two is the MERS or the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome, and number three is the COVID-19. Severe acute respiratory syndrome or SARS, again, it's a viral respiratory disease which is caused by the SARS-CoV coronavirus. It's highly contagious and it produces an atypical pneumonia. That means that it does not produce the signs and symptoms which you normally see in a patient of pneumonia. So the symptoms would be very unlikely to point towards a diagnosis of pneumonia. First, it was reported in 2003 in February in Asia when it caused a major outbreak. And when the epidemiological studies were carried out, it was seen that there is a natural reservoir in the horseshoe bat, and then there was an intermediate host, which was the cat, civet cat. That's a type of a cat which was which was more commonly seen in that area, and then that served as an intermediate host for transferring the virus to the human beings. CDC declared it as a select agent. What is a select agent? A select agent is an agent, a virus or a bacteria which has the potential of harming animals, plants, human beings, and causing massive ill health or destruction of the plants or the animals, and it poses a threat to the public health and the safety. So it was declared as a select agent in 2012 by CDC, or the Center for Disease Control, which is a worldwide center responsible for the disease control in different parts of the world. Then the SARS was seen that it had a very high transmissibility, that is, it spread from one person very rapidly to the other, and human to human transmission was very, very rapid. This came in the early 2000s, so it was the most important infectious disease and the first one of the new millennium. And the major concern again at that time was the healthcare workers, because again they were at the front line to deal with the patients who were suffering from SARS. And since it is spreading by the droplet infection. So any person who is going to be taking care of them, or any person who is going to come in contact with such patients, would be at a major risk of developing the infection until and unless that person has been properly equipped with the safety measures, with the safety suit, with the gloves, mask, and everything, whatever is required for the protection of that individual. So the major concern again at that time were the healthcare workers. And some of the patients with SARS were thought to be super spreaders. Generally, it spreads from one person to the other, to the other, to the other. But sometimes one person can be the source of infection to a large number of individuals, and that person is then said to be a super spreader. In case of SARS, the transmission was from the natural reservoir, which was the bat. So this disease was present in the bats, and it was remaining within that natural reservoir. But then something happened, and there was some unknown route of transmission which has not yet been identified, and through that route of transmission it came into a intermediate host, and in this case it was the mammals, and most commonly it was the civet cat. And since this cat had interaction with the human beings, from this cat it came into the humans. And once it was in the humans, it may have undergone mutations in the from the bat to the cat, and from the cat to the humans, or from the humans to the humans. But again, it adapted itself to the human environment, and then it started producing an infection within the humans. And once one was infected, then it could spread to the other human beings. So the natural reservoir was the bat, and through an intermediate host it came into the human beings, and it produced an epidemic. The infected individual could spread the disease either through the droplet nuclei, through the droplets, or through indirect or direct contact. The droplet nuclei are all those nuclei which have a diameter of less than 5 micrometers, and they can travel a distance of less than 1 meter. So if you are at a distance of more than a meter from an individual who's coughing or sneezing, those droplet nuclei will not be able to reach you, and you will be safe from anything which is present in the cough or the sneeze of that individual. On the other hand, when you have droplets only, these are going to be larger in size. They are going to be more than 5 micrometers in diameter, and they can travel for a distance of less than 1 meter. And since these are going to be larger particles, they are going to be heavier they are going to be larger in size. They are also going to be heavier. So they will not be able to travel a longer distance, but they will remain, and they will also settle down on the various surfaces, on the ground, or on your own hands, or on anybody who's passing through. Then the third transmission route is the direct contact. For example, an individual is coughing or sneezing, using his hands to cough or sneeze, or he has got a handkerchief or a tissue on his hands, and he uses that to uses that tissue to cough and sneeze, and instead of then afterwards throwing that tissue away, he is keeping that in his hand, and then he's in that way contaminating his own hands. And once that is done, even if he throws that tissue away, the virus is going to remain on his hands. If he handshakes with another person, if he is going to ingest, he's going to slap another person on the shoulder or anything, or he's going to use any utensils, or he's placing his hands on the surface, he is liable to transmit those droplets to either the human being through a direct contact or through the surfaces, and then and then that becomes an indirect contact for the other individuals. So transmission is through droplet nuclei, through droplets, through direct contact when the individual's hand is going to touch another individual, or when that individual hand touches an inanimate object, and that inanimate object becomes contaminated, and that object is touched by another individual, that becomes your indirect contact. Symptoms of SARS include cough. That is the main reason why the disease is going to spread from one person to another. A fever of 38 degrees centigrade or more. Then there could be headache, there is a sore throat, and as the virus is going to multiply within the lungs, it is going to produce shortness of breath, it is going to produce difficulty in breathing, and this is then going to lead to a pneumonia. Then initially there will be flu-like symptoms and the patient may suffer from joint pain and lethargy. Symptoms appear 3 to 7 days after the exposure to the virus. Now, just a brief overview of the pathophysiology of SARS. This pathophysiology is basically the same for the other two infections as well. So, first of all, we look for the predisposing factors. For example, in case of SARS, they were the males. They were more age, the older age group was the one which was affected, and the area at the time was China. And the precipitating factors were the presence of the virus, the presence of a traveling history and direct contact with the infected person, and contact with an infected person in an immunocompromised person. So these were the precipitating factors, like if the individual had a travel history, if he had had contact with an infected person, or if he was immunocompromised, he was more likely to develop a SARS infection if he came across a person, he was in contact with the person who already had that infection. So the droplet infection resulted in the SARS-CoV virus going into the lungs and getting attached to the epithelial cells. Or first of all, it's going to get attached to the epithelial cells in the upper respiratory tract. From there, it can enter into the blood, and once it goes into the blood, it is going to cause the normal thermal regulation. It is going to affect the normal thermal regulation, which is going to result in the fever in that individual. Secondly, it is also going to be carried into the lungs, and once it reaches the air sacs, the sensory receptors over there, they are going to detect these viruses, and they will then start internalizing in those cells, and they are going to cause the initiation of the pathological responses. Once these viruses, these sensory receptors are going to detect the virus, they are going to trigger the cough reflex, which is going to induce the coughing in that individual. However, the cough is since the airway is affected, the cough does not have that capacity to clear these viruses from the system, so they are going to subsist and they are going to continue multiplying and producing an infection. So these viruses, they can also pass into they are going to cause the increased pressure on the alveoli, and once they can go into the uh, when they're going to multiply in the cells, in the epithelial cells, they're going to reach the alveoli, then they are going to cause the destruction of the alveolar structure, and this alveolar structure destruction is going to cause an increase in the air pressure within the alveoli. Once that happens, the lung tissues become inflamed and scarred. Oxygen does not get into the bloodstream, and once it does not, the blood is not oxygenated. One thing is that the blood is not oxygenated. Secondly, is the lungs, because of the destruction of the because of the destruction of the alveolar structure, the lungs will not have the capacity to contract well and to expel the air. So this is going to result in the difficulty in breathing. Since there is inflammation of the air sacs, this is going to lead to the features of pneumonia. So basically, what happens is that when we are talking about SARS, MERS, or COVID, we are talking, number one, about the predisposing factors. Then we are talking about the precipitating factors, which would be the contact, which would be the travel history with the patient who has coronavirus, which it would be the immunocompromisation of that individual. All of these will become the precipitating factors. Since it is going to be a droplet infection, it is going to go into the upper respiratory tract. There, it is going to go into the epithelial cells, multiply over there, and it is going to cause the increase in the number of the viruses, which they can then either go into the bloodstream, go into the thermal regulatory center, and have an effect on that, resulting in high grade fever. Or these viruses, they can then also be inhaled and go into the alveolar, into the lungs, where they are going to go into the alveolar cells, cause their destruction, and cause destruction of the alveolar structure, resulting in difficulty in breathing and pneumonia. Here, then we have the lab diagnosis of SARS. In lab diagnosis, when you are doing the lab diagnosis of an individual, you first of all ask about the travel and the clinical history, and then you send that patient. If the travel and the clinical history is suggested, then you are going to send the patient for different tests. Number one, the most important test which has been carried out for SARS, MERS, and is being carried out for COVID-19 is the PCR. And since the virus is present within the cells of the upper respiratory tract. So nasopharyngeal swabs are, or the nasopharyngeal secretions, they are the priority specimen in these individuals. But as the disease progresses, the virus can be detected in the blood, or it may be detected in the stool as well of an individual. And because some of it is also going to be when you are talking, you are eating, some of the virus is also going to go down into the GIT as well. Then apart from that, for SARS, we have specific physiological testing for the antibodies IgG and IgM using the immunofluorescent antibody test or the ELISA. And then we can also culture the specimen for the viral SARS culture. And we are then going to look under the electron microscope for the microscopic changes, which could be cytopathic, could be metabolic change, as we discussed in the last lecture. Then let's talk a little bit about the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, or the MERS, as it is commonly called. Again, viral respiratory illness, which was first identified in September 2012. And this was identified by an Egyptian virologist, and he isolated this from the lungs of a 60-year-old patient with pneumonia and renal failure. And he found that this virus, which he isolated, was very different from the coronaviruses, which were found in people who had cold or who had the SARS-CoV. And therefore it was given a different name as compared to the other viruses of the corona family, and this was known as the MERS because it was found in the Middle Eastern region. The countries which were affected with MERS in that situation was, number one, were the countries which were in or near the Arabian Peninsula, like the Bahrain, Iran, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Qatar, Yemen, UAE, Saudi Arabia, all those areas which are in the Arabian Peninsula. Then, because travel is so common these days, the traveling of individuals from this Arabian Peninsula to countries outside of the Arabian Peninsula were resulted in travel associated MERS cases. Like in Austria, China, Egypt, France, Greece, Germany, UK, USA, everywhere you had MERS cases, but these were associated with people coming from the Arabian Peninsula, and they had brought that disease to that particular area. So basically it originated in these areas which were in the Arabian Peninsula area, and it just spread to the other areas through the travel. However, it again remained limited to certain areas like the SARS, and it did not spread throughout the world. Transmission of this virus. It is speculated, or it has been proved now, that the MERS infected the bats. Basically, it's a virus which was in the bats, and probably it went under some genetic mutation in the bats, and then it was transmitted. The virus was then transmitted through their excreta and through their saliva into the water. So this water became the reservoir for the virus excretions and the saliva, and then for the bat excreta and the saliva, and this became the reservoir for the viruses. And the drinking of this contaminated water transmitted the infection from this water to the camel, and from the camel it could be transmitted either to the human beings or to the animals. So it transmitted to the cow, to the goat, as well as to the donkey, and all those who were handling these animals, it became a source of transmission to them as well. And then we have the camel, which was the basic source of transmission to the human beings. And once one individual was transmitted, this individual became the focus which could transmit it to the other human beings. And then this spread to about one in every three individuals. So as the chain progressed, as the contact progressed within the individuals, so was the spread of the MERS virus from one individual to the other. And the symptoms included fever, joint pain, common colds, chills, headache, and shortness of breath. In short, all the symptoms which we discussed previously with the SARS-CoV virus, they were also present with the MERS-CoV virus. But over here, the transmission, although the initial transmission was through the bat, the intermediate route was the camel in case of MERS, and it was the civet cat in case of the SARS. Coming to the pathogenesis, it can establish an infection in monocyte-derived macrophages as well as the macrophages. And we saw that the most cell, they have receptors, and these are known as the DPP4 receptor. And these receptors, they are found mostly in the bronchial epithelium, but they can also be found in the kidneys, intestines, liver, dendritic cells, pneumatic cells. They can be found in a number of other places as well, apart from the bronchial epithelium. And once these monocytes or the macrophages, they ingested this viral antigen, they induced a release of pro-inflammatory cytokines, and these cytokines led to severe inflammation and tissue damage at the areas where these cytokines were released. Most of the destruction, they occurred in the lungs, but since it could also enter the circulation, it resulted in the involvement of other organs as well. And therefore, these individuals developed not only pneumonia and respiratory failure, they could also develop organ failure of different types. Then we have the symptoms. The commonest symptoms include fever, coughing, and shortness of breath, whereas the less common symptoms include diarrhea and vomiting, whereas the advanced cases would show you pneumonia and renal failure. Lab diagnosis similar to the SARS, and over here you will see first of all the clinical history as well as the travel history, which is most important in both the cases. Then in this case, again, we have the novel coronavirus 2012 PCR assay, and this is going to confirm the presence of this virus in either the respiratory secretions. We could take a nasopharyngeal swab, we could take a sputum, we could take the bronchoalveolar lavage, a bronchial wash, a tracheal aspirate. All of these specimens, they can be taken from the respiratory system. And the more specimens which you have from different sites, the more likely is the your chances of detecting the virus in those situations. And in case of the MERS virus, it is more likely the lower respiratory tract specimen, it is going to be more positive as compared from an upper respiratory tract infection. For example, if you are using a bronchial lavage or a bronchial wash or a tracheal aspirate, that is going to be more likely to give a positive result in case of MERS-CoV as compared to a nasopharyngeal swab. Stool specimens, again, because these viruses, they are going through the respiratory tract, they're going through your mouth. From the mouth they can also go into the GIT, and therefore they might be found in the stool as well, but that is not the ideal specimen for the detection of SARS-CoV or MERS. Coming to the last topic of today, that is the COVID 2019. COVID 2019 is again the coronavirus 2019. So it's a novel coronavirus, and this was labeled as COVID-19 because it was found to be different from the other viruses which we previously discovered, and WHO labeled it as COVID-19 by 11th February 2020. Rapidly infectious, it's a very highly infectious disease, and it rapidly increased from an epidemic status to a pandemic status. It was first identified in December 2019 in Wuhan, the capital of China's Hubei province, and it has then spread from that place everywhere, resulting in a pandemic. And basically the most important reason was the travel which took patients from one or patients or their contacts from one geographical region to another. As of May 7, 2020, that was yesterday, more than 3.75 million cases have been reported across 187 countries and 263,000 deaths have occurred. 1.24 million people have recovered. And as I was just listening to the news yesterday, in Pakistan, we had in one day we had 1,500, approximately 1,500 positive cases. About I think yesterday, in 24 hours, there were 1,500 approximate positive cases, and this means that the disease is not going anywhere. It is still here, and the number is increasing. So we need to be very, very careful regarding what we are or how we are dealing with this as a person. So coming to the structure, COVID-19 structure, same as the SARS or the MERS COVID structure. You can see this picture. You've seen it so many times, I think, on the media and everywhere. This is circulating. Same structure. This is the helical RNA genome. Then you have the envelope, which has the this is the M protein, which is attached to it, and then you have the spike glycoprotein, and the this is the or the membrane protein which we discussed. So the same structure as the other coronavirus structures. Transmission. SARS-CoV-2, the bat, is very similar to the COVID-19 which we have. So, can you hear me, please? Is the audio and the video, is the audio okay? So, the primary host came from the bat, and this bat had the same virus which was similar to the SARS-CoV coronavirus, which also came from the bat. Then there are speculations as how it reached the human host. Maybe it was the consumption of the food, which seems unlikely. It is more a direct handling, because if the food was cooked properly, the virus would have been killed. Either it was raw food which was being eaten, or it was the handling of that the food by the person, which resulted in the infection in that human person. So it either could come from the bat directly through an intermediate host, or it came through a person who was in contact with the bat, and then he came into contact with this human being. And once this human being became infected, he was able to spread this infection to the other individuals in the society, because there was no concept of, because we do not have a concept of social distancing, we do not have a concept of not shaking hands, we do not have a concept of what we need to, how we need to cough, how we need to sneeze. ये सारी की सारी चीजें हमने नहीं सीखी हुई कि अगर हमने खांसना है तो हमने मुंह पे हाथ रखना है, हमने रुमाल रखना है, हाथ रख के नहीं हमने खांसना, because that hand is going to then be based at various places on your own body, on your tables, on things which are going to be touched by other individuals. So in this way, it spread very rapidly. Again, direct contact and indirect contact. Direct contact is through the droplets, and this is going to affect the individuals who are coming into the vicinity of that droplets, and that is where that is why we are stressing on social distancing for COVID-19 spread. कि उसको रोकने के लिए we have put everybody in their homes, and we say that we remain home and stay home and stay safe. उसकी वजह ये है कि आपका जितना social distancing होगी उतनी droplet infection से आप बचे रहोगे. Secondly, these droplets, they can settle on surfaces, inanimate surfaces. कॉमन एग्जाम्पल आपका कैश है, कॉमन एग्जाम्पल आपका ATM है, कॉमन एग्जाम्पल आपकी डोर नॉब्स हैं, डोर नॉब्स हैं आपकी टेबल चेयर्स, एनीथिंग. ठीक है, so that is if these droplets are going to settle on that, there is going to be an indirect contact, and this indirect contact, when another individual is going to touch these things, he is going to get it on his hands. then these droplets, they can also remain on your hands when you are coughing, and this can be a source of infection for the inanimate objects, or when you are handshaking, then you are directly transmitting them to the other individuals. So basically जब हम ये बात करते हैं कि do not shake hands, stay safe, stay home और सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग, उसका मकसद सिर्फ इतना ही है कि हम अपने दरमियान में और पेशेंट्स के दरमियान में इतना फासला रखें और इतना कांटेक्ट से दूर रहें कि हमें अगर कोई इंडिविजुअल इन्फेक्टेड है तो वो इन्फेक्शन हमें पास ना कर सके. एंड ऑल ऑफ यू, अभी तक आप लोगों को विद द इंफॉर्मेशन विच इज सर्कुलेटिंग इतना अंदाजा हो गया होगा कि पेशेंट्स एसिम्प्टोमेटिक हैं. पेशेंट्स जो हैं वो आपको कफ और स्नीज के साथ प्रेजेंट नहीं कर रहे. द इंक्यूबेशन पीरियड, वो वाला पीरियड जिसमें वो वायरस उनके अंदर मल्टीप्लाई कर रहा है, दैट इज द टाइम व्हेन दे आर मिनिमम सिम्टम्स, एंड दैट इज द टाइम व्हेन दे आर गोइंग टू इन्फेक्ट मैक्सिमम पीपल. टाइम पीरियड जिसमें उनकी इन्फेक्शन नजर नहीं आ रही है. If we keep social distancing, if we prevent handshaking, if we maintain all these safety measures, we are less likely to contract the disease, and we can remain safe from COVID-19. Symptoms, as you can see, common symptoms हैं, कुछ severe disease के हैं, fever, loss of appetite, fatigue, loss of smell, बहुत सारे लोगों ने कहा है, shortness of breath है, coughing है, sneezing है, coughing, sputum भी है, लेकिन most of the time it's a dry cough. Then there are joint pains, muscle aches, the body के जो पेन्स हैं जो लोग डिस्क्राइब करते हैं, मुझे कहते हैं कि इस तरह के एक्स एंड पेन्स हैं कि लगता है किसी ने के मार के हड्डियां तोड़ दी हैं, और आपको उस पेन्स को समझ नहीं आती कि इट इज नॉट रिलीव्ड विद योर पेन किलर्स, और आप किस तरीके से उस पेन को कंट्रोल करें. इट इज अनबेरेबल. उसके बाद सिवियर डिजीज में देयर विल बी कंफ्यूजन, डिलीरियम, फिर चूंकि ऑक्सीजन सप्लाई प्रॉपर नहीं होगी तो देयर विल बी साइनोसिस या ब्लूइंग. उसके बाद अगर जैसे जैसे सिम्टम्स जो हैं, जैसे जैसे ऑर्गन्स जो हैं उनकी डिस्ट्रक्शन होती जाएगी, देयर पफिंग अप ऑफ द ब्लड, चेस्ट पेन हो सकता है, किडनी फेलियर हो सकती है, एंड वेरी हाई ग्रेड फीवर हो सकता है. Coming to the pathophysiology. Pathophysiology, as I've already discussed in the SARS-CoV-2, we have the ACE2 and ACE2 receptors which are present on the lung epithelium. यहाँ पे ये और the upper respiratory tract epithelium में, lung epithelium में भी ये जो है वो जाके आपके epithelial cells के ACE2 receptors में जाके अटैच होते हैं, और जब ये ACE2 receptors के साथ अटैच होंगे तो उसके बाद internalization होगी, उसके बाद उसकी replication होगी, और replication होने के बाद इसकी release होगी. Same pattern which we saw in case of the SARS-CoV-2. As I'm repeating, ये SARS-CoV-2 के साथ साथ ये जो COVID-19 है, it has got similar characteristics as compared to SARS-CoV-2. ठीक है. इसके बाद the antigens are taken up by the macrophages, the dendritic cells or the epithelial cells, और उसके बाद the antigen represent करता है with the MHC class 1 molecules, तो a large number of cytokines are going to be released. Basically जितनी भी destruction COVID-19 में हो रही है, COVID-19 में हो रही है because of the inflammatory cells, inflammatory cytokines which are being released. ठीक है. अब ये जो जितने भी amount में, huge massive amount में cytokines और interleukins जो हैं, inflammatory mediators जो release हो रहे हैं, वो इतनी amount में release हो रहे हैं कि उसको उन्होंने इसको label कर दिया as a cytokine storm. And this is going to be responsible for the majority of the damaging effects which are being seen in these patients. Similarly, इसकी cellular immunity और humoral immunity जो है उसको भी ये trigger off कर रहा है, और CD8 positive cells, CD4 positive cells जब activate हो जाते हैं वो भी cytokines को release करते हैं. And then you also have the development of antibodies. लेकिन अभी तक किसी को ये नहीं पता कि ये antibodies जो हैं, are they protective in nature, or they are just being produced by the humoral by the body as a humoral immune response, and they have no protective nature. ठीक है. इसके बाद ये वही है आपका पैथोजेनेसिस. इन तीनों की एक ही है, और इन तीनों की पैथोजेनेसिस में what needs to be seen is that कि जब ये सेल्स जो है इंटरल्यूकिन 1, 6, 8, 21, ट्यूमर नेक्रोसिस फैक्टर, ये सारे के सारे इंफ्लेमेटरी मीडिएटर्स और साइटोकाइन्स रिलीज होते हैं, तो इतने अमाउंट में रिलीज होते हैं, एंड दे गो इनटू द सर्कुलेशन एंड दे कॉज डिस्ट्रक्शन इन द नॉर्मल अदर वेरियस टिश्यूज ऑफ द बॉडी एज वेल. अच्छा, अब इसके अंदर वो ये कहते हैं कि जो साइटोकाइन स्टॉर्म जो है, दैट इज causing an acute respiratory distress syndrome, and that respiratory distress syndrome is the main cause of death, not only in COVID-19, but this was the same mechanism which was happening in case of SARS-CoV-2 and MERS-CoV as well. ठीक है. अब ये तीनों में, कोविड-19 में, सार्स कोवी में एंड मर्स में, ये सारे के सारे में सिमिलर पैथोलॉजिकल इसका सिस्टम है, पैथोजेनेसिस सेम है, जिसमें एक साइटोकाइन स्टॉर्म प्रोड्यूस हो रहा है बिकॉज ऑफ द रिलीज ऑफ इन्फ्लेमेटरी to cause the various effects within the human body. ठीक है. अब हो क्या रहा है कि ये एलिवेटेड लेवल्स जो हैं दे आर गोइंग टू इन केसेस इंडिविजुअल्स हु हैव सिवियर इन्फेक्शन, इनके लेवल्स बहुत हाई होंगे और उन केसेस में वेयर दिस इज द डिजीज इज माइल्ड और मॉडरेट, आपको ये साइटोकाइन्स के इंटरफेरॉन के लेवल्स जो हैं दे आर गोइंग टू बी लो. सो एन इंडिविजुअल हु डेवलप्स साइटोकाइन स्टॉर्म इज मोर लाइकली टू डेवलप massive disease, more likely to develop more complications as compared to an individual जिसमें ये cytokine storm नहीं है. So a violent attack by the immune system to the body causing acute respiratory distress syndrome, multiple organ failure, and finally it can lead to death in severe cases. ठीक है. Coming to the lab diagnosis, again we have a clinical diagnosis which is going to be based on the travel history and the clinical manifestations. उसके बाद you can get a PCR. फिर अगर कोई brain के symptoms हैं तो CT scan है. इम्यूनोग्लोबुलिन लेवल्स जो हैं वो डिटेक्ट होने शुरू हो गए हैं एलाइजा से, एंजाइमिक इम्यूनोसाइटोजेनेसिस से, बट अभी इतना टाइम नहीं गुजरा कि आपकी ये इम्यूनोलॉजिकल किट्स जो हैं वो रिफाइन हो चुकी हैं और उनकी जो इफेक्टिवनेस है टू डिटेक्ट द लेवल्स वो इफेक्टिव हो. सो इसमें फॉल्स पॉजिटिव बहुत आ रहे हैं और फॉल्स नेगेटिव बहुत आ रहे हैं. सो टुडे टिल डेट जो आपका डायग्नोसिस है दैट इज बीइंग बेस्ड ऑन द क्लिनिकल सिम्टम्स एंड साइंस ऑफ द पेशेंट्स, इंक्लूडिंग जिसके अंदर उनको रेस्पिरेटरी सिम्टम्स हैं, काफे फीवर है, डिस्निया है, बॉडी एक्स है, न्यूमोनिया है, and then you are going for the PCR. अगर आपका PCR पॉजिटिव आता है you label at the patient as COVID-19 पॉजिटिव. अगर PCR नेगेटिव आता है तो फिर आप उसको 2 days के इंटरवल पे रिपीट कराते हो till two PCRs are negative for COVID-19 and then you say that the patient is not suffering from COVID-19 disease. ठीक है. अब basically most important thing is the prevention. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Cover your mouth with when you cough or sneeze with the tissue and immediately throw the tissue away and then go and wash your hands. उसके बाद you should not touch your face with your hands. अच्छा, अब वायरस जो है वो किसी भी सरफेस से अंदर जा सकता है जो एक्सपोज्ड है. It can go through your mouth, it can go through your nose, but it can also go through your nose. थ्रू योर आइज. सो जिस तरह से आप अपनी आंखों को, अपने मुंह को और क्या कहते हैं नाक को कवर करें विद अ मास्क, यू नीड टू कवर योर आइज विद सम ग्लासेस एज वेल सो दैट यू आप अपने हाथों से अपनी आंखों को टच ना करें. और अगर आपके हाथ कंटामिनेटेड हैं तो it does not touch your eyes and the organism or the virus does not enter your body through the mucous membrane, through the membranes of your eye. उसके बाद clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces, stable surfaces है, ये सारी की सारी आप इनको clean and disinfect करते रहें. उसके बाद stay at home under normal conditions and self isolate if you feel that you are sick. अपने आप को एक कमरे में बंद कर लें. खुदा ना खास्ता if you have anybody in your household or anybody, कोई भी हो सकता है, उसको अगर कोई ये symptoms हैं तो self isolation and keep yourself in one room, locked up in one room and then go for the test and everything and wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds because this is going to kill the virus. अब ये वायरस जो है ना बेसिकली एक चीज जो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, इसका एनवेलप जो है दैट इज अ लिपिड एनवेलप. और लिपिड एनवेलप जो होते हैं ना वो बहुत जल्दी डिटर्जेंट से डिस्ट्रॉय हो जाते हैं. सो दैट इज व्हाई इट इज बीइंग सेड कि जी आप हाथ धोएं, हर थोड़ी देर के बाद आप हाथ धोएं, 20-20 सेकंड के लिए हाथ धोएं. कोरोना वायरसेस विल नॉट सर्वाइव आउटसाइड द बॉडी फॉर more than 24 hours. Detergents, soap होगा, किसी किस्म का भी डिटर्जेंट है, that is going to be very effective in killing that. उसकी वो लिपिड एनवेलप को डिस्ट्रॉय कर देगा और once लिपिड एनवेलप is destroyed तो वायरस जो है वो डिस्ट्रॉय हो जाएगा. So that's a very easy way to kill this virus. फिर हमारे जो कॉमन डिसइंफेक्टेंट्स है, ब्लीच है, ब्लीच का आप सोल्यूशन बना के रख लें, उसको यूज करें एज ए स्प्रे ऑन सर्फेसेस जो कि ब्लीच से खराब नहीं हो सकती। अगर आपकी सर्फेस ऐसी है जो ब्लीच से खराब हो सकती है, आप पानी का सोल्यूशन बना लें, पानी का सोल्यूशन उसके साथ बना लें, किसी भी लिक्विड डिटर्जेंट के साथ बना लें, उससे वो सर्फेस को साफ कर लें। दैट इज द इजीएस्ट वे इन विच यू कैन कंट्रोल दिस वायरस। ठीक है, आपने जो मेरा टेक होम मैसेज है फॉर एवरीबडी, बिकॉज इस दौरान में कोविड में आई हैव बीन गोइंग थ्रू वेरियस मॉड्यूल्स और वेरियस वेबिनार्स और सेमिनार्स हम लोग जो है ना अटेंड करते रहे ऑन कोविड-19। तो एट द एंड एक ही मैसेज है इस वायरस को कंट्रोल करने का, वो ये है दो चीजें। एक तो ये कि वायरस अभी जल्दी जाएगा नहीं, ठीक है, सो इट इज गोइंग टू बी हियर, वी नीड टू लर्न टू लिव विद दिस वायरस। हमने इसको अपने इर्द गिर्द रख के कैसे सर्वाइव करना है, उसका सर्वाइव करने का तरीके एक ही है। एक तो ये है कि अपने हैंड वॉशिंग, we make it a must. Number two, we wear a mask. We wear glasses to protect our eyes, wear a mask to protect our mouth and nose. And number three is we cannot remain in isolation. हमने बाहर तो निकलना ही, but we maintain a safe distance. ठीक है, इन सब चीज़ों के साथ भी इंशाल्लाह everybody, every one of us, each one of us will get through this crisis and we will be able to start meeting each other again. Alhamdulillah, inshallah. Any questions? No questions? चलो जी, मैं हमेशा लास्ट में कहती हूँ, इफ यू हैव अ क्वेश्चन यू कैन ऑलवेज कॉन्टैक्ट। मुझे समझ नहीं आती वैसे फेसबुक के पेज के ऊपर आप लोग क्यों नहीं क्वेश्चंस करते? आपको यह ख्याल है कि अगर आपका वहाँ पे नाम आ जाएगा और कोई आप सिली क्वेश्चन पूछ लोगे या कोई ऐसी चीज पूछ लोगे जो कि मैंने आपको बहुत दफा बताई है, तो वो आप मेरी उसमें लिस्ट में आ जाओगे? कोई ब्लैक लिस्ट मैंने बनाई हुई है? कोई मैंने ऐसी कोई लिस्ट नहीं बनाई हुई, ठीक है। और मैं फॉर माई स्टूडेंट्स, ऑल ऑफ यू आर जस्ट लाइक माई यंगर चिल्ड्रन। तो जिस तरह से मेरे अपने बच्चे हैं उस तरह से आप बेटा, आप लोग को मेरे लिए, सो इट इज अनलाइकली कि हाईली अनलाइकली, रादर इट इज इम्पॉसिबल कि मैं आप लोगों के लिए कोई ग्रज, आप लोगों के लिए कोई गुस्सा या आप लोगों के लिए कोई गलत बात सोचूं, ठीक है ना। वो एक टेम्प्रेरी सा थोड़ा सा जो है ना, वो जो होता है वो कभी कभी तुम लोगों को डांट देती हूँ, वो भी तुम्हारे बेटरमेंट के लिए, बट yes it can cause fibrosis of the lung, it all depends, क्योंकि फाइब्रोसिस जैसे मैंने आपको सर्स की उसमें बताया था, पैथोफिजियोलॉजी में बताया था, चूंकि एल्वियोलर वॉल्स की डिस्ट्रक्शन हो रही है, उसकी वजह से फिर उसकी डिस्ट्रक्शन में नेचुरली जैसे जैसे आगे वो जब प्रोसीड होती है तो वो फाइब्रोसिस की तरफ चली जाती है। बट इसकी अभी तक कोविड-19 की एक्चुअल पैथोफिजियोलॉजी किसी ने भी अभी किसी ने नहीं फाइनलाइज की, बिकॉज इसके अंदर जो अब नई थ्योरी आ रही है वो ये है कि इसके अंदर इंस्टेड ऑफ कॉजिंग रेस्पिरेटरी ट्रैक्ट इन्फेक्शन एंड निमोनियास, ये वास्कुलर जो वास्कुलर चैनल्स हैं लंग्स के, उसके अंदर थ्रोम्बोसिस कॉज कर रहा है, उसके अंदर प्रॉब्लम्स कॉज कर रहा है, डिसेमिनेटेड इंट्रावास्कुलर कोएगुलेशन शायद आपने पढ़ा होगा या हीमोडायनामिक्स में आप पढ़ोगे अभी, वो इस किस्म की चीजें कॉज करे। तो इसकी पैथोफिजियोलॉजी अभी तक जो है वो आइडेंटिफाइड नहीं है टू 100%, ठीक है। सो एनी फर्दर क्वेश्चंस आई विल टेक देम ऑन द फेसबुक। अगर आप लोग करोगे, मैं हर दफा देखती हूँ बट आप लोग करते नहीं हो, सो आई एम स्टिल वेटिंग, ठीक है। टेक केयर ऑफ योर सेल्फ एंड इंशाल्लाह सी यू नेक्स्ट वीक।